So this just came to me while I was making actually a different YouTube video, a mural board YouTube video, but I want to make a specific one on this because it's so powerful. So the video was about how you have your current state and then your desired outcome, and you have all the inputs in between that lead to that desired outcome. Now, when we have that desired outcome, in our minds, we're like, I want to be able to make those inputs to get to that desired outcome. But more times than not, as a human being, we don't, which is why most people don't achieve their goals. And so why can't we take those actions and make those inputs that get us that desired outcome, right? Partly because humans are slightly retarded. When I say they're slightly retarded is we have something called a pain-pleasure push. Pain pleasure principle. Now this was invented by Sigmund Freud, and basically it is that our survival instincts, our base survival instincts are all based on this. Moving away from pain and moving towards pleasure. Now inevitably, whenever we're going for a goal, the goal is usually takes effort, right? Otherwise the goal usually isn't valuable. That's kind of how value is measured. How difficult is it to obtain? So it's going to require difficulty. And a lot of those times, the difficult actions do not give us the immediate pleasure, right? They usually give immediate pain, which is why so many people don't achieve the goals, right? Now there's some people who do achieve the goals and they're able to withstand the pain over the immediate pleasure, right? How is that possible if we have this survival instinct? Here's how it's possible. You have two types of pain. You have immediate, delayed. And it's the same with pleasure. You have immediate pleasure and delayed pleasure. Now, usually pleasure that's easier to access and gives you a quicker spike is usually immediate. Now, the delayed is usually the thing that is more painful in the moment, right? Exercise, deep work, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. So it's almost the case that when we choose immediate pleasure, the delayed pain ends up being bigger and weighs more. Where if we choose immediate pain, the delayed pleasure ends up being larger, right? So we know this logically. And a lot of times, because of the pain-pleasure principle, we don't see this. Our psyches just see what's going on in the moment. Now, the goal of this video is not to tell you, oh, look into the future more. It's to make the immediate pain of doing something that doesn't push you towards your goals hurt. To make instant gratification, things that are immediately pleasurable, painful for the psyche, right? And how do we do this? For this, I'm gonna use a chart. We have our current situation and our desired situation. The further we are away from our desired situation to where you are now, it hurts more, right? If you're homeless and you desire to have a home, that hurts. If you're homeless and you want to be homeless, that doesn't hurt. This is where your standard comes in. Your standard creates the pain, right? If your standard is higher, if you desire yourself to be more disciplined, more in shape, have a better relationship, better finances, you're gonna have pain in your current situation. If you desire all these things and you know what it takes to get there, and your identity is, I'm a man who does these things and moves towards these, and my standard is to do them, then when you choose the immediate comfort, you end up getting more pain, right? For me, for example, if I skip my 5 a.m. cardio, then I have more psychological pain than the physical pain it would have taken to do that cardio. Because my standard, my identity is set at a point where it is dissatisfied and causes extreme pain if I do not accomplish what I set my mind to. Now, here's another problem. It hurts to move this thing this way, right? Moving your standard forward means that everything else equal, you're gonna be in more pain if you're doing the same things, right? However, if you move your standard this way, where you're okay with your current situation, you're okay with your daily inputs, you don't get upset if you don't stick to your word and miss your workouts, miss your meals, pain pleasure principle activates, and it's going to be impossible to choose the pain of doing the cardio, right? Of doing the workouts. So we cannot escape this, right? And that's what clicked in my mind. It's not my ability to just look in the future and say, oh yeah, this is better for me, so I'm gonna do it. It's the fact that I have more pain when I don't do the discomfortable act, right? And so how can you replicate this, brother? Number one is going to be understanding this, having the self-knowledge, understanding that the more we get complacent and accept the comfort of moving this way, the less likely we are to do the uncomfortable actions that get us to the desired outcome. Sometimes that means sitting with the pain of not being where you want to be, right? I always say this. If you are dissatisfied with your situation, it is idiotic to suppress that dissatisfaction and stay in that dissatisfactory situation versus put that dissatisfaction up here and use it as fuel, right? Because if you are dissatisfied, that is painful for your identity, painful for your psyche. And that pain needs to outweigh the actions that are required to get here, right? In addition, another thing you could do is environment Your environment heavily sets your standard. If you are with a group of friends and they are all getting in shape, have beautiful women, you know, working on business, and you're not, your standard is down here, right? The disproportion there is going to cause pain, right? We have a competitive edge in us. We compare ourselves to our environment. We do not want to be down here. We want to be at least meeting that, if not pushing above. This is a healthy competition with your environment. Now, if you are in an environment where the standard is much higher than yours, this is painful. And what you're going to try to do, you're going to try to relieve that pain. Again, 2 ways to relieve this pain. You either leave that environment or you push your standard up to that environment. You understand? And you can do this, you can create this environment. If you already have it, great. But martial arts is great. Dropping the friends with low standards that hold you down and pursuing the ones who have higher standards. Getting a coach. I personally did 3 months with a coach. His name's I Am Cry on Instagram. Absolute savage, right? Posts like 40 stories a day, a YouTube video a day, multiple reels, and is actually crushing it with coaching. And I used him to get his knowledge and a little bit of accountability, right? And that was very useful. I finished my 3 months and I realized that having him in my environment and seeing all that work on a day-to-day basis and talking to him weekly made my standard higher, right? My standard was moving closer to his. And so I renewed for another 6 months, even though it was a heavy investment for my financial situation at the time, just to have this. Because if my standard's higher, that means my inputs are going to be better. And if my inputs are better, that means my health is better, my relationships are better, my finances are better, my purpose gets more moved forward. So you need to figure out a way to create the identity and create an environment that makes it deeply psychologically uncomfortable to not be on your shit. Essentially, the point of this video is that we are all retarded, right? We go by our survival instincts. We can't avoid that. Our survival instincts to move away from pain and move towards pleasure. And so you need to leverage this. You need to understand that this is part of us and create a life identity and environment where there's more pain if you don't take the actions, the uncomfortable actions, than the pain of taking the action, right? This is how you do it, guys, right? I don't think just friction is better. No, that's not it. We need to strategize, be logical, and take every advantage we can to making those inputs we need to be taking, we want to be taking, the most satisfying. I'm going into the gym when I'm doing those workouts and I'm having that pain, that discomfort of doing those workouts. What I'm telling myself in my brain is how proud of myself I am, how happy I am to be here, how good this is for my mind, body, and soul. And that is more pleasurable than the physical pain, right? And then on the other hand, if I miss the gym, right, and I tell myself, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal, there's no pain associated with the pleasure of missing the gym, because it's pleasurable to sit on your couch, miss the gym, and eat cookies, right, in the moment, but it's more painful if you make it more painful for yourself, right? So be pissed about it. Say, fuck. Right? Why did I do that? I should not have done that. I would be happier right now if I went to the gym. And keep telling yourself that, keep telling yourself that, keep telling yourself that, because you will eventually just by default move towards the delayed gratification, right? I hope this makes sense. I want to give a little riff, just a little shorter one, but super powerful, guys. And now we can understand that people who succeed in life, people who move forward, people who just do the task anyways, even though from the outside they seem insane, like how are you able to be that disciplined, right? For them, including myself, almost not even discipline, right? My psyche just knows that the pain of not doing it is worse than the pain of doing it.